This is a special meeting of the Hubbardston Open Space Committee on January, that's it, Bob. December 2nd, 2020. And by observation, I can see that we have a quorum. We have Mark Kresge, Todd Livendell, Rick Jones, and Susan in attendance.
And Stephanie.
Oh, that's right. And
Here,
Stephanie.
yeah.
I got elbowed for that one. So seeing that we have a quorum, I will call the meeting to order. And just relative to topics, this is a special meeting. I'm going to switch over to my Word document here. The main topic is to discuss the work at Mount Jeff, the associated payment situation as it relates to that, any next steps as opposed to, not as opposed to, but in conjunction with the work up at Mount Jeff. And then I'll save any other agenda items for shortly thereafter. So let's start with just, I don't know, comments. And before we get into payment, let's see, I'll open it up to the committee. I wasn't planning to run this like a regular meeting, whatever the heck that means. But since Rick did send around meetings, we had minutes of the last meeting, we can address that. Are there any additional comments to the meetings? I know there were a couple comments that got made, and then there were updates to that. Any additional comments to the minutes that were sent around as efficiently as usual by Rick? Any comments?
Add him in again.
We lost Todd. Todd dropped out somehow. Promote to panelist. Todd dropped out. I'm bringing him back in. Here he comes.
He's just on mute, but there he is.
All right, now he's back in. Any additional comments on the minutes? Hearing none, do I hear a motion to approve the minutes of the last meeting?
Move that we accept the minutes as submitted by Rick.
Do I have a second?
I second it, Susan.
All right, Susan. Do I hear any objections? I'm going to phrase it that way. Are there any objections to accepting the minutes? Hearing none, I will have the minutes approved from our last meeting. All right, let's get up to Mount Jeff. Already had per Mark's nice comment about a crowd of people and kids running around, and hopefully nobody fell into the cellar hole. I didn't hear anything about that. It's already being acknowledged as it already had been, but maybe even more so as a picturesque place to take pictures. Let's go to the financial part, I guess, first. How do we want to address, or Susan, do you have a plan for making payment? Let's see, I'll open the discussion first. Let's just talk about the work done in the amount prior to talking about payment. I'll reverse my comment there. I was moderately pleased with the quote that came back, the invoice that came back from Robert Bobby Hype, since he had an additional person there that worked all day with us. So $1,500 for the day. The initial information that I got from Robert was $1,700 a day. I had an inclination that his invoice would be less based upon some feedback that I got relative to him working, doing work over in Concord. That he could probably do that for less. So I was anticipating that it would be no more than 1,700, and indeed it was less, and it also included an additional human being there for the entire day. From my perspective, the day was about as good as it could have been. Very efficient, no hiccups, period, I guess. No breakdowns in equipment, nobody got hurt, et cetera, no unforeseen calamities relative to the work that was attempted to be done. He did the area around the foundation, the area around the big beech tree, made a couple passes, made 3 or 4 passes on the little peninsula that protrudes outward from Mount Jeff Road, and then made 2 complete passes, which is 4 runs of his machine up and down Gates Hill Field. Any other comments from other people?
Just bravo. I mean, we went up there to take a look and it was amazing, the change. We do have to think about the next phase, but let's just rejoice in what was accomplished in that one day. That was amazing, you all. Congrats.
Mark, your thoughts?
Yeah, I was pretty thrilled. The machine did everything that they said it was going to do, and it was a quite reasonable day rate for the crew. So I thought it went extremely well.
Yep. And I just relative to when you have work done by people, you like to, besides the quality of the work, you'd like to appreciate their attitude and work ethic. And I thought those, in addition to the quality of the work, were complementary to our committee in general. Pleasant people to work with, hard workers. The assistant, Rick, you had that. What was his helper's name? Scott. Scott just jumped right in and just did whatever he needed to do. And obviously he was machine capable. He did some work when Robert had to leave to go pick up his child, etc. And the little scene at the end when his child was there, it was just what I would hope things would be like in an ideal scenario for work that we would have done for our community and our town. So in conjunction with that, we can finish up the financial aspect of it by entertaining a motion to accept his invoice of $1,500 for the work done. So would anybody want to make that motion?
I'd move it.
Todd's made the motion. Do I hear a second for that?
Second by Mark.
Second by Mark. All right. Do I hear any objections to that out of the meeting members? Hearing none, I'll state that that's a unanimous approval for accepting the invoice. And now I'm going to turn the comments over, or the floor over to Susan to talk about a vehicle for making a payment, because I know I've already signed something for today. I signed it, but that still needs committee approval.
Right.
So Susan has come up with a mechanism for making a payment. So you want to talk to that, Susan?
I don't know if we need to formally stipulate that it's from the rider fund. I think we had discussed that before. Is everybody in agreement that that's the one to go for? Because there's not enough in the open space expense account, and to go through the trust will take going through Parks and Rec again. And since they just had a meeting a couple of weeks ago, that would be a long stretch. So my recommendation is to take it out of the rider fund, since it is for Mount Jeff. Do we need to formally vote that again, or what?
Well, let's just talk about that a little bit. So the rider fund in perspective, what's it got approximately $5,000 to $6,000 in it?
Okay, we have exactly, well, 250 in the open space. It's 248 or something. We have,
5,700.
right, well, if we take the rider money, if we go to the rider fund for the 1,500, we'd have 4,200 left. So it's
Okay, so there's
5691.
there's 5,700 in there to
Yeah,
start with.
basically
Okay,
5691.
And,
And so that would leave us with 42 in the rider.
okay, and I know we've sort of touched on this before. What's excuse my ignorance, but the Jassy had made some comment relative to the rider fund needed to be replenished. Does anybody know any more detail on that?
Yeah, I can speak to that. And I had wanted to anyway at this meeting. The reason why Jassy always treated that fund as untouchable unless you were going to replenish the funds being withdrawn from it is that that's the only halfway significant amount of money under our direct control. And Jassy's view of the highest and best use for that money was as seed money to leverage in grant applications.
Okay.
Typically, grants require either matching funds or they're reimbursement grants, so that you have to be able to cover the fund or cover the expenses initially and then get reimbursed for them later. And that's the way she treated the rider fund the last time we got a trails grant from the state.
Okay.
Which was for building the bridges on behind the Chimney Trail and doing that trail relocation. She got a grant for that, but she covered the expenses from the rider account and got reimbursed later.
Okay.
Back into the rider account. So that's why she treated the rider. I mean, there's no technical reason why the rider account has to be replenished. But there's a practical reason in that it's a pot of money available to us under our direct control, as opposed to the preservation fund, which, as far as I know, tomorrow Parks could decide that they're going to drain that fund for a skating rink or a playground or whatever. So it's the rider fund is a more reliable source of funds for us than the preservation fund, the preservation account. So I would hate to see us drain that away entirely.
Yep.
I mean, I think bringing it down to 4,000 is not the end of the world.
But that's kind of a stopping place,
But
right?
yeah, I'd be reluctant to see it drop much below that.
Right.
What about thoughts on how we could replenish it?
Christmas ornament, next Christmas, not this one. With a beautiful tree.
Is there any way after the fact that we could try and use the preservation fund to replenish, to use the rider account, since it's essentially a readily available fund, which is fantastic, and we need that kind of a resource. Is there a way to replenish it from, as I said, the Hubbardson Preservation Fund?
That would be magic, wouldn't it? Like a wizardry thing?
Well, from an accounting standpoint, it's certainly possible. I would think that Sanda would look askance a little bit about at that particular transaction.
And if we feel strongly about not depleting rider, we could go through preservation.
No, I don't want to do that. We need to have a vehicle. If I go just past this, this is hopefully not the last time we're going to have to do this. Yet we don't want to leave a good suppliers of work, like Robert Height, and tell them they have to wait for a month or 6 weeks to get paid.
Well,
So it would, I mean, Mark graciously, and I was in the same boat of, if we did not have a readily available vehicle to make the payment in a timely fashion, to make the payment and then get reimbursed. Why isn't this the same thing as it relates to the rider account?
What do you mean?
What he's saying is, can we reimburse the rider account as opposed to reimbursing?
Yeah,
Mark.
if we could reimburse Mark or ourselves, why can't we reimburse the rider account?
Because we have nothing to put into it. Wait a minute, you're losing me here.
Huh?
Reimburse it with what, Bob?
Money from the Hubbardson Preservation. If Mark or myself, whomever, said it's not fair to have somebody that comes and does really good work that we're really pleased with and say, oh, by the way, you got to wait a month to 6 weeks to get paid. That's not particularly an appropriate way to deal with that person. So one of us might step out on a limb and say, okay, we're gonna pay for that and then get reimbursed.
Just this is.
So what's the difference between doing that and then using our rider money? I know there's a little subtle difference. because-
So to Mark's point, from an accounting standpoint, it's a transfer of funds from one account to the other. That's doesn't require anything, but his point was Sanda and committee, the rec committee may not take kindly to us using the Hubbardson Fund to provide sources of funds for the fund that we control solely. I mean, what's to keep us from saying, hey, transfer in another, whatever amount?
I mean, that's a sidebar conversation you could have with Sanda, Bob. I mean, if she views the preservation fund as dedicated to open space purposes, then there would be no objection to doing that kind of a transaction. If she views it as a more town-wide Hubbardston Preservation Fund, then that's going to be a problem.
And
Okay.
I just
Okay,
want to
but-
interject, Bob, if you can just, because I did speak with Kelly this morning. Actually, I had a phone call into her on Monday and I emailed her Tuesday,
just-
nothing. So today she called me and we can have the check to him it'll be cut next Thursday and in the mail. So Rutland, he'd get it Friday or Saturday. So that solves the immediate problem. I understand you're trying to look for the future.
Yeah,
That's
Trying to
for
keep
another
them using-
conversation.
And we don't want to use that up, and we need to be thinking outside the box of some sort of way to replenish. That's
okay, in I mean, we could have gone, suppose Mark or I said, okay, or combined, whatever, how it worked down. Said, okay, I'm gonna provide a private check to this work, and we went to Sanda with that.
That could be reimbursed if that's your question. If they
Yeah,
approve it.
yes, if she's gonna reimburse us, why wouldn't she reimburse the rider account?
Because I would say that it's because this is for a specific invoice that you guys would be covering. And in fact, Sanda just did that this past week
first, yeah.
for something else. But whereas just putting it into another account that only we control, she might raise her eyebrows. Maybe she won't. I mean, you could always ask, right?
To clarify though, that was CPC money. She's working on the skating rink. But no, the way you said it, it could have been.
yes, but she wrote a check.
She did a
personal
MasterCard
check.
and she
All
got
right, that's
reimbursed.
enough bickering.
No, it was encumbered funds and it's just, we want to be
The
clear.
point was that she wrote a
I'm
check.
just talking about this specific thing. It just seems, it's just a philosophical, seems almost a little bit nonsensical. So if Mark or I paid the bill she'd say, okay, that's fine, we'll reimburse you.
Right.
If we use the
Exactly.
rider account, she won't. Is that?
Well, we don't know that.
No. But either way, she might not reimburse you either, right?
I guess, so I would think she'd
Yeah,
have.
I mean, you can't just spend money and then expect her, well, I paid, so you reimburse.
All right, so that's a sidebar conversation, I think, that
Well,
I
in
should.
that case, then we could then take the money out to reimburse you if they refuse to do it out of the rider account at that point.
If we have it, yeah.
No matter what, I think we should have a better understanding of how Santa perceives that particular account.
Okay, all
Or how
right, I
Parks and
agree.
Rec, not
I agree.
necessarily her.
And so that's my job. I'll have a conversation with Sandra on that, okay? I think that's the way this goes down.
So Kelly is
Did we ever
only
get-
in tomorrow. Okay,
What?
Kelly, the person that would take care of this, do the paperwork, et cetera, is only in tomorrow. She won't be in on Friday. That would mean we'd miss a week.
Oh, no. I didn't mean to go down there, Rick. I have no intention of delaying where we're at relative to using the rider money.
Okay,
So I just wanted to somehow, per the comments that just transpired relative to, we don't want this to get any lower than that, and it would be nice to have a little cushion there. And we want to be able to have some source of funds to do exactly the kind of things we did and not have that rider account drop below a certain threshold that would support grant type applications, et cetera, et cetera. We discussed that enough to know that that's an account that we have readily available. We don't want it to drop below a certain amount. We need to be able to replenish it, like in these situations, and preferably from, why not, money that we get off our hay fields and stuff. So,
Because
all right, that's a side conversation. My next comment will be, having discussed the scenario sufficiently at this point, I would like to hear a motion that we use money from the rider funds to the amount of $1,500 to pay the invoice for the work done by Hype and Sons Incorporated for the work done at Mount Jefferson.
can I add one more comment, Bob?
Go for it.
Remember that we were going to be talking about fencing at some point, and that's another amount, and we're going to have to maybe go to a preservation fund, especially if we don't want to take another few $100s out of the rider fund. So you may want to keep that as a separate topic. I don't know, but just keep that in the back of your mind.
So let's keep that as a separate topic. We can add to that request at a subsequent point, if that's okay. Is that okay to take that as a separate topic?
It's all right with me. I just,
Keep it in
All right.
mind, that's all.
I don't think that requires a vote or a motion. It was a comment. And so I'll consider that to be an okay to take that as a separate topic, which we could have imminently. So again, I'll look.
We're still looking for, and
Go ahead.
I move that we pay this invoice to Height and Sons from the rider fund.
Do I hear a second?
second,
All right, we have 2 seconds, actually. Rick and Steph both seconded that. Do I hear any objections out of the members present? Hearing none, I will consider that a unanimous vote of the members present as recorded by Rick to make the payments out of the rider fund. That sounds great. And I'm really happy with the stuff that has been done up there as well. All right, the next steps up there, and I don't know how much more detail, that was the main purpose of the meeting tonight, was to make sure that we had a vehicle for making payment to Bobby Hype. Now, I'll just open this to the floor. How much do you want to talk about what goes on next up there? I mean, if this is a special meeting, do you want to talk about that right now?
yeah.
I guess it probably depends on whether we're trying to do something this fall or in the spring.
Well, it would be a good idea. All right, how about if we just at least make initial thoughts, and we might be able to squeeze some work in up there. Uh, the Here's my topics that I see, and then let's add to my concept of the topics. There's a bunch of concrete. I'll call it rubble, if you would. It used to be part of the old historic foundation. Probably add on to porches, etc. That's a lot of it is just falling over. There's some really nice stonework foundation in the interior of the foundation. There's the stone pillars up there. Um, we some of the drops are relatively steep. Some aren't too bad. So there's a safety issues. There's cleanup issues. There's maintenance issues. If we got rid of the concrete that's in some of those places, probably eventually grass could come right up to the old original foundations to make maintenance around it a lot easier relative to mowing down where the bittersweet grew in, etc. So how do we want to proceed with that kind of a scenario? And other people can add to the scenario as they choose. Somebody? Mark?
Sorry, I stepped out for a moment. So we're trying to determine what the next.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, what I had said, Mark, was there's 6, 8, 10 feet away from the foundation. There's concrete rubble that's falling over. That is obviously not deep into the ground. The backhoe bucket from my tractor could pick that stuff up and put it into a pile. That would enable a relatively, it could be a graded area that goes right up to the old stone foundation to make it so it could be mowed so you don't have to deal with bittersweet and other growth stuff coming in there. I'm not sure what historical implications somebody might have with objecting to that. The simpler we can make it to maintaining that whole area, the better. And the simplest maintenance thing is mowing up as close to the foundation as we can get.
Right. I think I really do think we should involve the historical society or whatever the group is called in town. I would hate to unilaterally start bulldozing.
Yeah.
But I think it is reasonable to do some cleanup work and filling around the more notable foundation features. And I think that we should involve the DPW in that conversation. They could provide equipment and men to do that kind of thing. I think there would still be some external costs involved to bring in additional fill and topsoil and stuff if we wanted to make it a mowable area. So we'd have to have all that kind of conversations. But that's what I would see out there.
On involving the historic committee, whatever they're called, because that's a valid use of Hubbardson Preservation Fund money. That might be a way to split the costs of doing anything there to maintain the historical aspects of the foundation.
All right, I totally agree that before we do before we evolve our plans, let alone do additional work, that it would be what's the best vehicle for getting the historical society, organization, committee, whatever they are. Is that a town committee?
Yes.
All right, so getting the historical committee.
Society isn't, the committee is.
Okay. So getting the historical committee involved. Anybody have specific connections there already? I don't, but
Gary Kangas is the one who does the Acadia books, the history,
does the what?
the Acadia books, the pictorial history.
Yeah, yeah. Is he part of the committee?
He's on the commission, which is at the hierarchy. The commission is appointed. The society is just volunteer. You know, that's like Joyce Green and her husband and Kathy and the
Okay,
Hanscapes.
yeah.
Yeah, that's the society. So we do have some connections, and maybe I could contact Joyce with that. She's the secretary of that organization. Does anybody know Gary personally, sort of? I
No.
met him he goes to both meetings. I missed the
He's-
meeting this year.
Besides Mark, he's the one that knows the Indian caves, isn't he?
Oh, that's right.
Yes.
Oh, that's right. We need a field trip in
Yeah.
the spring after it gets.
We've met Gary, but we don't know him. But is there someone else on that commission, do you know? Or
You know,
that's the one-
Barbara Carpenter is on the commission. She's also on
She's
CPA.
on this CC, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
so she doesn't seem to be that I mean, she doesn't seem to voice many opinions, but that doesn't mean she wouldn't be helpful.
All right, does somebody want to take an action to contact someone in, what it's called a commission and not a committee?
Yes, the commission is the appointed, more scholarly group, if you will.
And the society is what, just
They do the
Election of
fundraiser at Williamsville Chapel. Remember when Yeah.
She's asking.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Just
The commission is the one that's part of the town
Okay.
bureaucracy.
archives and so forth.
That's what I wanted to know, Rick, thanks. So does someone want to take an action to contact somebody in the historical commission?
I'll contact Gary and Steph. Do you know Barbara well enough, maybe, to give her
I
a
don't know
buzz?
her that well, but I'll talk to Joyce, and then I do know Joyce, so I could ask
Oh,
Joyce. and-
okay, that would work. All right.
All right, so Susan's going to contact Gary, and then Steph's going to contact Joyce. And then I think the next step will be wait to hear from that. Is that right? That's what I hear out of this.
Well, I guess when we contact them, we kind of have to have an idea of what do we envision as a committee, what that's going to look like. at
All
the
right,
end.
I think Mark and I touched on that briefly. I'll just, my take on it, because you want to be able to maintain it without doing all the work that we just did up there.
Mhm.
And if you can mow and keep the growth down, then that would facilitate maintaining a nice overgrown area. But that would entail taking out the falling concrete, like to the front of the foundation, and there's a little bit maybe to the back. I can't picture that exactly in my head, but I know on the front side, there was the old stone foundation, and then they must have added some porches or something, and they used it at a point in time, poured concrete was available, but they obviously didn't put any deep footings in because the stuff is just falling over already. It's broken up and falling over already. I don't see that that's
that's
of
the-
significant historical value, other than it could paint where an old porch was, but I guess that's a historic.
I think it's backfill to level out the area.
Yeah,
And then the cement.
and so if you took the concrete out, you could come right in and close to the old stone foundation. If I had a picture myself of what I would like to see up there, hopefully this historical society, the picture that's up there is really nice. Got at least one horse, maybe a team of horses, but and people standing around the foundation. You have no semblance of those stone structures that are up there. It'd be nice to add a little bit more history about what's up there, but you got to be able to maintain it. So
Right.
my vote would be to see what the Historical Society can add to a little bit more of a story that could be done in some sort of a Mark type portrait that he's done some great things with already. And they could paint a picture of what was like up there with a little bit more of a story that would encompass like what those stone structures were for. Were they just decoration? Did they lead to a pathway to an underground path? I'm not underground, but a lower level path to underneath a barn or something. There had to be some significance to the way they're curved and led down the hill. But anyway, it'd be nice to know a little bit more about it. But again, be able to grade up there. And to be able to grade up there, I was able to drive up in and around to a certain extent with a tractor. People were walking around there. If you got rid of the crumbled, but significant chunks of concrete up there, it would make it a whole lot easier to maintain it. So that's like the direction I think that I would go relative to discussions with the Historical Society. But they're the one, that's why we're contacting them, to get their input.
So
We're
Steph,
I thought we were contacting them just to find out about the foundation and what we can do with it. Are we able to remove the concrete, or are we supposed to leave it in place because it's a historical?
Well, it's all of that. It's like maybe where we want to go with it we want to be able to maintain it, as well as maybe have a little bit more of a story behind it.
Okay.
Anybody else got thoughts?
At the very least, we owe them the courtesy of asking for their input.
yeah, for sure. Okay,
And also,
well, our mission, we'll accept it, right, Steph? We'll make it happen.
Yep, we'll check
Okay.
with them. Sounds good.
Anybody else got inputs on? But it would be good for Susan and Steph to have when they're talking to these people, like our vision. What, Mark? Do you have a vision what you'd like to see up there?
No, not in any detail. I mean, basically pushing some stuff over, filling it in and leveling out some areas.
Facilitate maintenance, yeah.
And fencing, just be thinking.
Yeah, well,
about-
yeah, and the fencing, obviously, it's safe from a safety viewpoint. You got to make sure that, per the little kids, and I was envisioning what Max thinks of kids running around there. Hopefully, they didn't get close to a 10-foot drop. But some places are not that bad, and some places it is. So we could definitely put. So I think the next step in our process, before we get into fencing, etc. Unless we want to do something on a temporary basis with just steel posts, etc., to talk to the Conservation Commission. I mean, historical group,
Society.
right? I don't think that,
Do you think we could get that done before the next meet? Are we going to do the 29th or the end of the month meeting still, or what?
yeah, whatever. Yeah, this is only the second. Whatever we had our regular schedule, that's
Okay.
only another
That
month
seems
away.
feasible.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think we can ask them as long
It
as
would
they
be nice.
look.
All right. All right, so Susan and Steph are going to take that action. Do we?
If they're interested in taking a look at this, we can do a site walk sometime
Yes.
before Christmas, before the next meeting.
Yes,
I
that
think
would be the best. If we can get 4 people, maybe 5 that can all do it at the same time, you know? But you've got to ask or it'll never happen. So sure, that's a great
All right.
idea.
So before discussing any detailed plans on what we can or want to do up there, other than what we've already done, does anybody feel that it's of sufficient safety issue to, I don't know, just use steel posts and any kind of temporary fencing before we do anything more?
I don't think we need anything.
Well,
Yeah, I don't know. There's still the rickety split rail fence above
In the
the
back, yeah.
big drop off, and I think that's adequate for a while.
okay.
Are there any town liability issues involved here that we would
Well,
need to?
I can say that I've been to a lot of places, town lands that have cellar holes that have nothing around them.
True.
And it's rare that I see in any conservation land that I've ever walked that has much around it. I don't know. I guess it's just sort of you're out there and.
All right. Unless anybody wants to discuss that further, then we'll, this is relatively short-term stuff. So we're going to engage the Historical Society. That'll allow us to discuss further the next steps in the process. So I'll just leave that. Any other discussion other than nice work? I would just touch on and leave it to the next meeting. We don't need to discuss it at this one, but it'd be nice to go the next step relative to Jassie's Meadow or any other additional work that we would like to have done on maintenance of hayfields, the area across the street, etc. But I'll leave that to the next meeting. But based upon the success that we had in one day's worth of work, that you can see that you can get an awful lot accomplished in one day for relatively short money, supplemented with some really significant volunteer work from the people in this meeting. So it was great to see the amount of work that got done there. So the only other thing that I had on the agenda was just a brief touch, since it's active at the moment and has been sent around to people. The dam on Burnshire River, on Burnshire Road, and the per Mark's comment, that's the best thing to do with that is to stay away from it. But are other people aware of and been following those emails?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. So the dam, I guess the short of it is on the Burnshire River emanating up in Templeton, was dammed up, I don't know, 30, 40, 50, 60 years ago. And right at the bottom of Thompson Road, the intersection of Thompson Road and Burnshire Road is where the dam is. And apparently it's failing. I don't know the details of that, but apparently it's failing. And the someone from, what's the society?
Mission E4.
Mission E4 is pushing the effort to try and get something done so the dam just doesn't collapse and the pond drain. So anybody else want to discuss any more on that?
What about beavers? I'm being serious. We could import some beavers that somebody didn't want, but we need to get it flowing again.
it already flows over the week.
Susan, you said you were being serious.
I am.
Well, they actually have done work upstream a little bit of that, because there's actually two ponds. I think one of them is near where there's a Hubbardston Cornerstone, because it's right up along the town line area.
Yep.
Steph and I have ridden across there. Susan and Rick have probably ridden across there. Right at the town line, there's a snowmobiles go across there somehow in the winter time that gets up over to the rail trail. But at any rate, they've done a little bit of beaver work up there. To have them, to tell them to move downstream a little bit, I'm not sure that's going to work. But
Sure, we'll just trap them and relocate them.
Yeah.
I'm
think
serious.
You can trap the ones behind your house.
I think they'll swim
They're
away.
gone.
They're gone.
Yeah, we don't really.
Oh,
Yeah.
I'm just curious, Mark. I don't know if you know this, but I thought it was interesting your response to Taryn regarding the ownership and the rights of way, et cetera. How much say, it sounds like, despite the fact that they don't own it, that Fish and Game or DCR has a lot of, can do whatever they want with it, really.
Yeah, right now, Fish and Game has the responsibility for that dam. Both the liability in case of failure and the ability to maintain it if they decide that they really want the pond habitat upstream, which they don't want to spend the money for, basically, is what's going on right now. And yeah, I mean, it's their call as to what to do with that potential liability right now.
What's the function of that dam, Mark? You got any idea? I mean, I don't see any liability. It drops off a lot. I can't see any houses. It
It's
goes
actually
down.
it's classified as a low hazard dam. There's not a lot of flooding risk down. It's not a flood control dam.
Yeah, that's my take. Yeah, there's a gorge down behind it, and it ponds up as Williamsville, right near the Williamsville road. There's another relative to Susan's comment. There's another beaver dam. If you continue down Burnchurch and then take a left on Williamsville,
At the bottom. Yeah.
there's another good-sized beaver dam prior to it going under Williamsville Road. So, but I don't see property that's going to get flooded or any kind of liability, flood control kind of stuff as it goes down through that gorge. But maybe.
Yeah, but what about the people who live on the pond that won't be a pond anymore?
Yeah.
Well, the Taryn had commented. Now that Rick refreshed my memory on his name, there's a fire department feed line, so they can hook up a truck to it to get or hoses to it to get water in case of a fire. But there aren't too many houses down there, so
Maybe it could be taken up by that group in town that's doing the emergency.
Oh, yeah. What is that thing called?
Oh, I can't remember what that's called. but that-
MVP.
Municipal vulnerability.
Yeah,
program.
that's flooding dams and all that is a priority from what I've read about that.
Really?
So
'Cause
what do
maybe
you
that's
think?
something.
If that's something that would be that the MVP would be interested in?
Well,
Or a
only
concern? Would they consider that a concern?
only if it was the town's responsibility, which it isn't right now.
We got $1 million to fix it, right?
Well, it's something that this should be touched upon by that committee because they probably have to have everything looked at, and at least from what I've read from other towns.
Doesn't that go beyond town responsibility? Doesn't it go beyond what should be in place in cases of catastrophe?
Yeah, I guess that's one point. I don't know.
Does anybody know anybody on that committee?
No,
Todd, didn't
maybe
you
that's
go
how
to a
we can help
meeting?
steer.
I was involved in the conversations. I'm not sure I was actually a member of a committee.
We've been there, done that.
But there
They
was,
did get a $20,000 grant and there's about 14,000 left. So that's not very big bucks. I mean, it's
No.
something. I don't know what they used it for.
No, I don't think they're too advanced in the
Well,
process. So
Yeah.
Does anybody want to take any note of any further action that we want to do on that?
I wish that we could help in some way, but it's kind of beyond our pay grade, isn't it? Or
yeah.
is that a cop out? Come on. What do
maybe
you
we
think?
could steer the person.
Maybe just steer them to that what is it, MVP.
Yeah, maybe steer them to that and see if that helps.
They might get let them chase it down and let them go to MVP. How's that?
Does anybody know if Ryan's aware of this at all then? Oh, of course he is, because it was at the select board, right?
Yeah.
And then the Concom too?
Yeah, so I would think at the select board or Concom, somebody would have thought of the MVP, but maybe that's because it doesn't have anything to do with it.
Well, how about we let Taryn chase this?
Oh, yeah.
All right. Any other? That's enough talk on that. I just wanted to bring it up so people were aware of it. Any other new business or any other topics anybody else wants to bring up at this special meeting?
Just a point of information. Towards the end of our session up there at Mount Jeff the other day, a local resident by the name of Chuck MacArthur stopped and spent several minutes talking to us. Can't remember, were you there, Todd, at the time?
Yeah, I think I was.
Yeah, so he just
The
wanted to
man
know
with
what
the
we were
walking stick
doing.
and the beard.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was up there, he was taking a hike and wanted to know what we were doing and who we were. And we talked about the Open Space Committee and he started asking questions about the Open Space Committee. So I gave him a rundown of that, what we did and what our responsibilities were. And I sent him an email, was it yesterday? Just to, he'd give me his email address, wanted information on that, wanted to know more about Fieldstone Farm. So I sent an email out yesterday just to repeat what we had talked about up there at Mount Jeff, and sent some information on Fieldstone Farm. He did express an interest in possibly being part of the Open Space Committee. So that was part of my reason for sending it.
Okay,
He's retired. I don't know how long he's lived in town. He lives right up the road. He walks down to Mount Jeff and Malone all the time. And
so he's
also,
one of Todd's neighbors.
Yeah, well, he's actually on New Templeton Road.
Yeah.
Oh,
one of
Mark
the Marks
neighbor.
neighbors.
he's one of
Perhaps
Mark's.
let me know if I need to go up there with ropes and hog tie him and drag him into the.
Well, so I invited him to our meeting at the end of the month, and I was very ambiguous. Probably isn't the right word, but he did express an interest. He wanted to know what the level of commitment was. So I kind of told him some of the projects we'd done the past year and that kind of thing, and that's the way I left it.
okay.
That's
Good.
great.
Just as a side note, we're chasing down a chimney sweep that lives up on New Templeton Road, not too far from Mark, probably.
Yeah, we used him last year.
He's got a red beard.
Oh, I don't know
Oh, he
about,
called us back, but we haven't seen him yet, so.
Yeah, he did a nice job. He did ours last year,
2 years ago.
2 years ago.
he cleans the chimney from the inside, right?
Yes,
Yeah,
he didn't get on the roof on ours.
yep.
I don't know about what he do with yours. You got a much taller.
Oh, no, he said he works from the inside, so at any rate. That sounded better than me getting up on the roof.
Yeah.
All right, anything else by anybody?
Let's go eat.
That's funny. That sounds like a motion to adjourn. Do I hear a second?
Move to adjourn.
Second? I
All
second.
right.
Any objections?
No.
Hearing none, I'll consider the meeting closed.